There are reputations to be made here. Our last speaker for the day is Lara Tutina, who's joining us from Melbourne in Australia. Liara, can you hear me?
Hello, yes, hi.
Welcome. So, Liara is the Asia Pacific Customer Relations Manager for the IHTSDO, the International Health Terminology Standards Development Organisation. So Liara looks after us. She's our contact point with the IHTSDO. She's a very charming person, as you're about to find out. Liara's history is she didn't mind me saying this. She worked on the Connecting for Health MP Fit program in the UK. Liara has previously worked in delivering business transformation management, project procurement, financial management and business development in commercial business and sector in Australia and Europe. Liara holds a Master of Commerce in International Business and Technology from the University of Sydney and speaks 4 languages, 5 if you count SNOMED. So I'll hand over to you, Liara. There are a whole room full of people here. You'll just have to put up with seeing me in the curtain because I'm loath to touch the webcam, but we're all listening with bated breath.
Okay, thank you very much. So when Alistair and I had a chat about me joining this call, we said that we will try to break it a bit into more interview type of discussion. So I'm happy to play both roles here and to hopefully keep you awake after the very long day.
Liara,
yeah.
Liara is very tactfully reminding me that we did indeed agree to structure this as an interview. So, your first question, Liara.
I can ask it myself.
Liara, can you tell us a bit about the IHTSDO and how the organisation was started?
Sure, thank you. So let's start with maybe a bit about history of SNOMED CT, which was mentioned briefly. SNOMED CT was developed in the US by the College of American Pathologists as well as in the UK by the NHS. And the design of SNOMED CT is based on user requirements and the clinical experience and very solid scientific principles. So when IHTSDO acquired SNOMED CT from CAP for public goods use in 2007, the organisation that we now know as International Health Terminology Standards Development Organisation was formed. It's an international non-for-profit organisation that is owned by national members. So New Zealand is one of the founding members of IHTSDO, and it is governed by the General Assembly. General Assembly is the strategic body that makes all the strategic decisions for the direction of IHTSDO. It is managed by its members, and the election of the operational management entity of IHTSDO, also known as Management Board, is also done by the General Assembly. So in terms of the funding, IHTSDO is funded by its members based on their national wealth, so it's a membership fee every year. But the benefit of members having access to SNOMED CT enables free access within member territories. So that includes New Zealand, as was said before, so all organisations and suppliers in New Zealand can use SNOMED CT free of charge, as well as across 27 countries in the world, including New Zealand. So affiliates also in non-member territories can have access, but for a nominal low-cost fee at organisation basis. So hopefully that gives a bit of background on what IHTSDO is.
And Liara, your role in Asia Pacific as the Customer Relations Manager, what do you see as the direction within the region for SNOMED implementation?
Thank you. So my role as a Customer Relations Lead for Asia Pacific primarily is focused on 2 areas. One is looking after our existing customers, which is also known in the industry as account management, and the other one is business development. So in terms of our focus in IHTSDO is to deliver world-class products and services. SNOMED is our premier product, and we're very interested to ensure that the customer needs are reflected in what we do. So in terms of what I do, it's managing the liaison with customers in Asia Pacific, as well as ensuring that we have alignment between the needs of the customers and the strategic direction of SNOMED CT and how we develop it. In terms of business development, IHTSDO is a member-based organisation, so we would like to ensure that the knowledge of SNOMED CT as a terminology that is global language for health. It's not just specific for one country. Being multilingual, it can be applied anywhere in the world. So part of my role for Asia Pacific is to develop outreach to the markets to increase the adoption for SNOMED CT. We're actively involved with some of the Asian organisations or Asia Pacific organisations to raise awareness of SNOMED CT across the region. One of those is AHIN or Asia eHealth Information Network. And for those of you who are interested to hear Alistair online on the 30th of July, he will be presenting on New Zealand and experience of SNOMED CT. So stay tuned, and I'm sure Alistair will won't mind to give you the link.
Thank you for that plug, for that event you set me up for. Would you like to just briefly explain how the IHTSDO SNOMED development priorities are set? And I'm kind of setting you up here to sort of talk about the punch that a small country has alongside some of the other larger member countries like the US and India, in that the organisation operates along very democratic lines where New Zealand has a strong influence over the SNOMED development program. I've sort of answered that already, so I'm sorry.
I'm happy to add to it. So as a member country on an annual basis, New Zealand has an equal voice amongst the other 26 countries to propose both the work items for delivery in content, in tooling or implementation support or even education offering that IHTSDO delivers. In terms of priorities, those are provided by all countries. However, there is a very equal process in terms of prioritization. Countries review priorities as a forum and nominate those that they consider to be of the highest importance. So New Zealand has a unique opportunity to promote the activities and the work that would benefit not only New Zealand but also the global community to be delivered by IHTSDO as the global organisation. And in terms of the unique opportunities, I think what we will talk about later about the SNOMED CT Expo provides countries like New Zealand and other members an opportunity to have the world's eye to be turned to New Zealand and its healthcare system development and the progress that the government is making in implementing SNOMED CT and electronic health records and other initiatives. And the communities from the world will be coming to New Zealand to both share their experience as well as to learn from New Zealand and its efforts.
So when we had a show of hands before, there were about a third or maybe a quarter of the audience had a clinical background. I'm just wondering, for people who want to get involved with this rather than just being spectators, what are the opportunities for medically trained people to get involved in the development of SNOMED, the ongoing development of the content?
Sure. In terms of the health research practitioners as well as clinicians, there are two main ways how to get involved with IHTSDO work and SNOMED development. That is through the route of the special interest groups, we also call them SIGs for short. Those are the interest groups that are focused on different clinical domains. We have a number of them. Just to mention a few, we have dental, we have pathology, and we have all different types of domains represented. And the clinicians can get involved to provide their contribution for SNOMED CT development through that group. Another way of getting involved is to participate in the clinical review work for ICD-11, because we're working together with IHTSDO to align ICD-11 and SNOMED CT. So the provision of input by clinicians to identify new content that could be added to SNOMED is a very valuable exercise, and IHTSDO would welcome input from the community.
So IHTSDO, being an international organisation, is collaborating with other bodies such as the WHO on ICD-11 development. Who else is the IHTSDO collaborating with?
Thank you for the question. Yes, indeed, IHTSDO has a very large number of collaborative agreements with some of the key international standards development organisations. I'll mention just a few. So if we mention WHO, there are a number of maps between SNOMED CT and WHO products that are in place. Most notably, we have ICD-O, topography and morphology map. We have ICD-9CM and ICD-10CM that are regularly updated on a biannual basis. We also have most recently published the SNOMED CT to ICD-10 international map, and that's available, and we're also in the process of working with WHO on chapters of ICD-11. In terms of other terminologies, we have a working relationship with Regenstrief Institute on LOINC, and we have published already technology preview, and January 2016 release will also see the LOINC baseline release published. In terms of other collaborative agreements, we have one with HL7 to work on the value sets, including SNOMED CT content, metadata and bindings. We also have a working relationship with GMDNA, which stands for Global Medical Device Nomenclature Agency, to work together on device technology incorporation into SNOMED CT international releases. And previously, the previous speakers have mentioned the information models. We do have collaborative work also with Clinical Information Modelling Initiative, CIMI, to develop common approaches to modelling clinical information that is bound to SNOMED CT. And finally, we also have working relationship with International Council of Nursing and a joint work of linking SNOMED CT to ICMP. That's just to mention a few. There are more that we deal with as well.
I guess one of the big ones for us here, I mean, we're LOINC users in New Zealand around lab reporting, but particularly, I guess, ICD, and the question always arises, where's SNOMED's place, where's ICD's place? Have you got any insights you can share with us about ICD-11 and the place of SNOMED in there?
IHTSDO is working together with WHO and a common ontology between SNOMED CT and ICD-11. It's an ongoing work. We are involved in joint councils together with WHO, working on guiding the principles for development. So it's an ongoing work, so I would say watch this space, but both organisations are committed to working together.
Fantastic. Well, I think it's probably time, Liara, for us to talk a little bit about the conference that the IHTSDO has awarded New Zealand. Would you like to talk a little bit about what the conference is and what it'll mean for New Zealand next year?
Sure. So we had the great pleasure of having New Zealand as the elected country to host SNOMED CT Expo in 2016. It was a unilateral decision by the member countries. One of your representatives had made a very impressive presentation about New Zealand that almost had a standing ovation in the General Assembly room where it was presented. So indeed, congratulations. The host city will be Wellington. The time when it will happen is 27th to 28th of October. In terms of what to expect, it is the premier event of the year for IHTSDO. It is held once a year at the back of the business meeting that happens in October, and each year it's in a different location. So this year it's in Asia Pacific and it's in New Zealand. In terms of the structure of the event, it's focused on SNOMED CT implementation, So there will be international speakers from across the globe who will come to present and share their implementation successes, their experience. There will be tutorials and workshops about SNOMED CT and different things you can learn about different aspects of both content development as well as more technical side, as well as implementation aspects of SNOMED. And finally, we'll also have exhibitions by vendors and suppliers who have developed or are in the process of developing SNOMED CT applications. And all those who are interested to either exhibit or present will have opportunity to participate. So in terms of exhibitions, we'll be inviting people very shortly to both provide sponsorship as well as to nominate themselves for exhibition. And for those who would like to present, the opening for abstracts will be sometime next year. And I'm sure Alistair will be reaching out to you and your colleagues, and we will be working with Alistair to promote the event and to give you opportunity to participate.
Well, I think one of the messages that I've been trying to impart today is that we're trying to engage a wider community. There are a lot of meeting a lot of people today. We want to get people involved who haven't been involved in these things before. We want to harness the wider clinical community and the wider software development community so that we really do drive some innovation in the way that information is captured at point of care for better outcomes, for a better health system. And it sounds as if at the Expo, Liara, not to feed you more lines, it'll be a perfect opportunity to demonstrate some of those solutions.
Sure.
Right. Now I should mention that, and you hinted at this, Liara, the standing ovation was just about due to Stuart Jessamine, who's our Acting Director of Public Health in New Zealand, and who's New Zealand's IHTSDO General Assembly representative. So he gets to go to all the exotic locations, and the event this year is going to be held in Uruguay. Stuart, on the back, I think, of awarding of the conference to New Zealand, is the current General Assembly chair. So, in a way, we have our moment. And I just think, and you might like to reflect on this, Liara, with 27 member countries in the organisation now, and you might like to describe how it's growing, this might be our only chance to have the conference. So we need to make the most of it. Liara, can you just talk about the growth of the organisation and where it's growing at the moment?
Sure. In terms of the membership, we currently have 27 member countries, and Portugal and India are the most recent members who joined IHTSDO. In terms of the use of SNOMED, it's not just member countries as members who are using it. It's used by affiliates across more than 50 countries in the world. So just to mention the importance of worldwide use of SNOMED, there are clearly benefits for use of SNOMED by one organisation, and from the previous presentations, I hope it's also been becoming more evident that it's actually the more widespread use of SNOMED that yields the most benefits. So it's both the regional level, the national level, and also at the international level, the additional benefits that can be reaped from using common clinical terminology are there. So if, for example, SNOMED CT is used as a common foundation for meaningful clinical information, then it enables both countries as well as institutions across the globe to use this information and to exchange different data, including, for example, population-based research and analysis, or sharing of health records, or other useful artifacts, for example, guidance documents or decision support and mappings. So, in conclusion, it's the widespread use that provides most benefits to both individual users as well as the nations. So IHTSDO is striving to promote and raise awareness of the benefits that international terminology like SNOMED can provide.
I'm going to leave you looking at the curtain for a moment as I wander out into the audience to field a few questions for you.
Sure.
It would be at the back of the room.
This may be a tricky one. Given your IHTSDO's licensing model, do you find the fact that you haven't got all the EU countries a constraint on the use of SNOMED in the EU? I mean, it sort of noticeable absentees from your list of countries be France, Germany and Italy, for example.
I heard part of the question. Alistair, would you mind repeating it to make sure I got it?
So the question was a little pointed around the absence of some of the EU members from the organisation.
Okay.
So Germany, France, for example.
In terms of sharing
Alright,
information.
okay. Sure. Whilst it's not an area that I work with day-to-day basis, I will give you some overview of particularly those countries. So in terms of France, there are already discussions happening with the country about the adoption of SNOMED CT. However, decision is clearly with the government. There's also work with Germany and Italy, but that's at the different phase of development. I think what's important probably to mention here, there's a European-wide project currently being run by the European Union. It's called Access, and it is investigating and doing analysis of the benefits of SNOMED CT use if it was applied across the EU as a common terminology. So IHTSDO is monitoring progress on that work, and we also will be liaising with the European Union to ask for our ability to share the results and outcomes of that study with the wider community worldwide. And I think that based on the outcomes of that study, it may also have impact on some of the national governments in the European Union, perhaps expediting their decision process with regards to adoption of common terminology.
Do we have any other questions for Liara? Who would like to speak to the IHTSDO? Here we go. Oh, sorry. Here we go, Liara.
Hi, Liara. This is Koray. Yeah, hi. I was the previous presenter. It's a tricky question, and I'm sorry to ask, but it has to be asked. The terminology bindings, when we create file resources or CME models or open-air models, if we use SNOMED CT terms, and if a country doesn't have that license and the vendor takes it over there's a big problem at the moment. Is there any resolution to this issue, and whether or not, how to approach this, because that has not only economical implications but also moral and safety issues as well? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for the question. So in terms of those models, that the information model organizations we already talked about, and also others we didn't mention earlier. So IHTSDO is working with CME and Open and a few other organizations on agreeing a licensing approach to both promote and ensure that the information modeling initiative work is continued with use of terminology. However, also acknowledging that the use of terminology in non-member territories requires work with IHTSDO on that by those organizations who wish to apply it. So we will be putting in place a licensing disclaimer, if you like, or notifications that those organizations will have to inform their users so that they are aware of those aspects. I think what is probably very important here is licensing has use and application for also safety purposes, so that when terminology is updated or if information is retired, that there is knowledge by the organization of the affiliates that are using that terminology, so that we can inform our affiliates of changes to the product. So that is one of those aspects that I think is probably very important to keep in mind that while it's, some of the open source solutions do use terminology actually does have clinical use in health records, and that needs to be managed with due, I would say, caution and appropriate processes that normally get applied to that. So that's part of why we're dealing and working with these organisations with regards to licensing.
I think we have time for one last question. So I don't think we've got any takers. So Liara, look, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. It's been lovely hearing from you, and thank you very much for giving us a perspective on the international organisation. So a round of applause for Liara. So that's the end of the SNOMED session. So I don't really have a lot else to say. We managed to finish on time. I think the message is this is it's a going concern, and it will succeed if you get involved. Please get involved, talk to your colleagues, make them aware that the Ministry of Health is behind this, ASO is behind this, we have an international body behind us. This is a way of reaching an international community, and we have our moment now, I believe. Thank you. I think David wanted to have a few last words, is that correct? Or we're having a panel session? Right, okay. I think we've got a short hiatus while we refuel here.
Well done, Howie.